Please. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning with thankful hearts, and we just pray, Lord, that as we go through our business of the county this morning, that you will lead, guide, and direct decisions that are made here. We pray, Lord, this morning for our nation, our state, our county, our city, all levels of government. We pray for the people who are suffering this morning. Father, there's been so much devastation throughout our nation, from hurricanes to shootings, and we just know that people are hurting this morning. We just pray that you will comfort them, give them a hand of protection, Lord. Lead, guide, and direct all decisions that we make, Lord, and just be with us through this coming week. We ask all things in thy holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sheriff, for being so kind this morning.
Please stand and join me in our pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I trust everyone's had the opportunity to read the minutes, or are there any corrections on the minutes? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Mr. Wood, discussion of the adjustment of the agenda.
Yes, sir. We've got three additions to unfinished business. The first is a motion to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder, TA Loving Company, in the amount of $1,915,000 for the sewer improvements at Grantham Middle Elementary School. The second is a motion to authorize the county manager to execute an architectural agreement with Stewart Cooper Newell for the master plan and full design services for the public safety training facility to be located at Wayne Community College. And the third one is a motion to authorize the chairman to accept the CDBG DR award in the amount of $16,940,000. So those three would be under unfinished business. Under finished new business, Carol has a catch a glimpse video from our Public Affairs Department, which they'll want to show you today. That's it.
Okay. Are there any more changes to the agenda? Is there a motion on the floor to accept the agenda as it stands?
Motion approved.
Motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Special recognition. Sadie Saunders has a birthday?
Yes, she does, and I'm assuming that Paula's not here, so I'll go ahead and read it on your behalf.
Okay.
Dear Ms. Sanders, happy 100th birthday. It's a pleasure to share this day with you and offer our best wishes to you on this special day. Longevity of life is a blessing for an individual and for the community in which they live, and for the benefits of their knowledge, creativity, and experiences in which they bring to all. You've achieved a remarkable milestone to have lived through 100 years. Thank you for the numerous contributions you've made to strengthen Wayne County. On behalf of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners, staff, and citizens of Wayne County, congratulations on your special day of celebration.
All right, that is a special day. Thank you for that. Before we move to the second part of the special recognition, it is at 9:05, and time for public comment section. If there's anyone who wants to make a comment, please come forward and give us your name, your address, and your phone number. And the public comment section is open. All right, then. Everybody's quiet this morning. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it out then. Thank you. All right, let's move into another special recognition, and I'm going to ask a good friend of ours to come up, Kevin Leonard, the NCACC Executive Director. Rather than seeing a film this month, we got the real thing. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, Madam Clerk. I think I got everybody. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces around this dais. I felt when I walked in, I felt like I'm really at home here. So many folks in this room and around this dais have served on the association board and taken part in our steering committees, and we just cannot thank you enough for all of that and your support of our association. It was great leaving Raleigh this morning. It was a beautiful drive, not too bad to get here. It was better because I was leaving Raleigh, and it's always nice to do that. I want to start by saying congratulations to your county manager, Mr. Wood, on his announced retirement. Y'all are losing a great one, but you're gaining a great one as well, and Mr. Honeycutt. And we've worked with Mr. Honeycutt over the years in so many ways in his previous roles. He also serves on our board currently as the manager representative, as the past president of the City County Managers Association, which we'll be having a board meeting the end of this week in Dare County, heading all the way out there. But one more thing about Mr. Wood. He came up to NACO, to the national organization. I know y'all are aware, and I saw many of y'all there present about Hurricane Matthew, along with your state emergency management director. Just did an outstanding job, and we really appreciate you doing that for us. Mr. Chair, I can talk as long as you would like, or not. Yep, I'll see you later. Just don't hit me with the gavel. I have several things to report to you, and for a person who spent a lot of their career talking for a living at the General Assembly, I can talk, so you just give me the sign and I'll stop. But here are the things I thought I would talk with you about this morning. As you said, usually we do this in a video update, but I'm pleased to be able to have the invitation to come and do this with you this morning. We recently met with the governor. Our executive officers met with the governor about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about 4 or 5 things that I'll briefly touch on. Those things are the new presidential initiative on children, school bond, broadband, update on FEMA funding, and the opioid crisis. So I can talk to you at length or short about those items. And also, I wanted to give you just a quick association update. And if it's okay, I'll start with that. That's probably the quickest thing. You might have seen some news yesterday that we released about Patrice Rosler, which, by the way, we have 2 Wayne County natives on our staff. Patrice is one of them, and Joanna Reese, our Director of Government Relations, both from Wayne County, I think, grew up here. Patrice has been with the association for 42 years. Our longest serving employee announced her retirement yesterday, and it was a moving staff meeting, I'll tell you that. The great thing about this news is that she's taking a new job. I joked with her, I was like, you're finally starting your second part of your career after 42 years at the association. She's going to go spend another 42 years probably over at the UNC School of Government as the manager of elected official programming. And I can think of no one better to do this than Patrice. So there's going to be a continuity of leadership training, and we've worked so hard over the past 10, 15 years to build a curriculum to help our county commissioners across the state receive leadership training. Now Patrice is going to go over there and work with the School of Government to take it to the next level. She is planning to help not only county commissioners, but school board members and city council members as well. So it's a big deal. When you see her, give her a hug around the neck and tell her thanks for all her service. She's just a remarkable lady. Building, you might recall that we had a fire at the association, your association office, and we are presently still out of that building. We will be out of that building. I told the staff yesterday we'll be out of there for at least another year. Wow. I think people across the state may not realize how devastating the fire in Raleigh was. And so I break it down into 2 categories, phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 is getting our staff back into a more permanent house and place. And so we're working on that right now. We're getting that taken care of, and I suspect that we'll be there in a new place, probably the Quorum Center, and you've all been to the Quorum Center. We've had steering meetings there before, board meetings. We'll likely be back there next September. That's what we're working towards. And then there's a phase 2 part of the conversation, and that's what to do with that space where Coates Building presently resides. It's a pretty good piece of property in downtown Raleigh, and we own part of that, partly are owners with the League of Municipalities. So that becomes complex in figuring out what to do moving forward. Paul Meyer, my counterpart at the league, and I are presently working together on trying to figure out a path forward on that. So we're working diligently at a measured pace to make sure we take care of a home for local government for you all for the next 50 years. We don't want to rush into that since it's going to be such a major endeavor. But we are cognizant of the fact that you need some place to go and be when you come to Raleigh, and we're trying to take care of those things. Which, by the way, Mr. Chairman, at any time if you want to ask me any questions, I'm happy to take any as we move through.
I was going to ask one thing. You mentioned about broadband.
Yes, sir.
What's going on there? Because, you know, the rural areas are really left out.
Absolutely. We pushed, and I'll transition to the meeting with the governor. Ronnie Smith is our second vice president from Martin County. Know that? Yeah. Yes, Martin County. And he actually brought that issue up to the governor. It's on our top 5 issues of legislative initiatives, and there's legislation pending in the General Assembly to help give counties the ability to build infrastructure. It's not to provide the service, as our position is that counties don't necessarily want to be in the role of being the provider, and the telecom industry has made it very clear that they wish us not to be the provider. But you as county commissioners sitting here should have the authority to, we believe, as the association and our members, you have told us to go fight for this, to change the statutes, to say that you could invest funding, public dollars, county dollars, into building infrastructure, meaning fiber or some type of delivery system, and then partner with a private entity to light that fiber up into areas of the county that you see fit, kind of like water lines and sewer lines. If you're making decisions on pushing infrastructure of that type out towards a certain area, you're trying to build that up. You also, and so it becomes an issue of economic development. It's an issue of public safety, more and more. It's an issue of education. All of those things really fit into the argument that this is no longer a nicety. You know, having broadband capability and high-speed internet, it's no longer a nicety that students are trying to do their homeworks, and if they can't get the internet at their house in rural parts of Wayne County, then that could be a challenge to them. And so you have students who are having to travel to the public library or to restaurants to access Wi-Fi. So we are working hard to push that. We've made more progress this time in the General Assembly than we have, but we're still trying to get over that hump. So I would just ask if you could talk with your members in Wayne County about the need for allowing counties to have that flexibility. That's what we're arguing for. So I hope that answered that question.
That does answer that question.
President Howerton is, Brenda Howerton is our new president this year, just sworn in Durham. She's from Durham. I saw many of you at the conference there. We think it was a really good conference. I hope you enjoyed your time there. She is setting our initiative this year on taking care of children from 0 to 18. It's a broad scope of what she's trying to achieve, and that is basically how does a county touch a child's life from 0 to 18, and how can we make a difference in that child's life. A lot of attention right now is being centered on pre-K and funding of pre-K programs, so you'll hear a lot of that, but we're also looking at how counties touch a child's life from DSS services and foster care and public schools, and we're looking at a broad swath of how you and the decisions that you make sitting there touch a child's life through all the funding decisions that you have to make and the decisions that you are working on. So we've set up a task force which will meet in October. Actually, there's a meeting today in Chapel Hill of the first working group of the child welfare changes that are taking place. It was a big issue related to DSS in this past General Assembly. We were very, we had a lot of opportunity to have influence with the senator from Wake County, Senator Berenger, who is leading that task force. And I'm happy to report to you that we have a very strong relationship with her, as we're moving forward. We have 4 commissioners sitting on that working group. They're meeting today to talk about how to rewrite the laws on child welfare in the state of North Carolina. So that's something you'll be hearing a lot more about over the next year, especially from your DSS and social services departments. Look for the association to ramp up efforts moving into next year on an effort to create a statewide school bond. We had success this year with some new lottery funds. They're targeted to Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties. It's a grant-based system. If you look back in history, you will notice that it looks a lot like the 1980s and 1990s Critical School Capital Needs Fund. It's just using, instead of state appropriations, it's using lottery dollars and proceeds. It's new proceeds. It's not taking away from the original $100 million that is set aside for all counties. The new amount of money, originally set at $75 million, will grow to $100 million over time. Those are the grants targeted to Tier 1, Tier 2 counties for new school construction. As I've been working with members of the General Assembly, especially Senator Harry Brown, who's the Senate Majority Leader and Chief Senate Appropriations Chair from Onslow and Jones County, we've been talking. In fact, I'm set to meet with him again tomorrow. We've been talking about, there's a large scope of programs that are needed. Lottery is one. School bond is another. And we need to be pushing for a school bond, statewide school bond, to help our counties build new schools and repair the ones that we have and renovate the ones that we have. The state has stepped in time and time again over the past 100 years, about every decade, to do a statewide school bond, and we haven't had one since the 90s. And if you'd like me to do a presentation on this particular subject matter, I'd be welcome to come back in another setting. It's a longer presentation, gives a lot of detail about school funding issues.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes, sir.
On the grant dollars to Tier 1 to Tier 2, are those grants or is that loan?
It's a grant.
It's a grant.
Yes, sir. And for Tier 1, it's a capped at
Where Tier 2 are?
Yes.
For Tier 1, it's capped at $15 million. Okay. At Tier 2, it's capped at 10 in Wayne County for a brand new school. Now, that's not going to pay for a brand new school. Sure. The averages are, I think I want to say it's like 12 to 15 for an elementary. Maybe it's 19, 22 for a middle, and then on upwards, you're talking probably, 30.
And were those funds budgeted for this year or?
Yes, in fact.
Started this year?
We need to get more information out. I was talking with Joanna Reese just yesterday. The application may have just been issued by DPI for the bond, pardon me, for the grant. So I can get information to your managers about that. And if you're interested in working to put in an application for that, probably time is of the essence, and we will get information to you. But again, I caution, it's targeted at new construction, and that is needs a little bit of clarification, I believe, in the law. I'm talking with the senator that you might have a school, but you need to add on an auditorium or a gymnasium. That is new construction in my view. And so we need to do we need to have some conversations with the superintendent, Mark Johnson, to figure out how they're going to judge some of these things and score them. I think it's an open question because this is the first time around.
Kevin, one of our concerns, and I'm sure it is of every county, is we're all wrestling with this new mandate on class sizes. Yeah. And I think we've gotten a preliminary report from our school board that it looks like we might be 70 classrooms short. So we already are doing a local bond issue that'll pick up 22 of those. But I guess one of the questions I have is that, are they going to give, do you think, priority to that? Because that's a mandate that the legislature threw at us with a pretty rapid turnaround, because as we understand it, we have 2 years to comply with that, and we're into the first year already. And there's no way you can build a school in 2 years, not get it designed and get it out to bid and everything.
We've been pushing that point, And I think that that's going to be a bullet point for us to make sure that we emphasize on the statewide school bond issue. That, yes, that is going to impact counties across this state, and it isn't, I think, as you stated, it's an unfunded mandate to the counties of North Carolina to be required to meet that standard, but yet, where are you going to put them? And I don't know that that has been brought to the forefront of the conversation, and we're trying to do that. It's becoming more and more about the class size, the children in the class, and the teachers, and also the teacher pay has become an issue as well. So, as it always is, and as you all know very well, it comes down to priorities and limited resources. And so we're there waving that flag on this point. It's getting lost a little bit, but to me, that's an excellent argument piece to talk about the school bond statewide. So we'll be doing that, and we'll carry your voice when we're doing that. We heard that here. FEMA, I know that Wayne County was hit particularly hard in Hurricane Matthew. President McClure, when he was past President McClure now, and I rode around eastern North Carolina about this, last fall after the event occurred. And it was jarring to see all of the damage occurred by the floodwaters. And we haven't forgotten that. And I wanted to make sure you heard me say that today, because as soon as an aside, one of the ancillary things that happened out of that event was strong relationship building between our partners at the Emergency Management Division of the state. Mike Sprayberry, and I know, again, many of you were at the association's conference. Mr. Sprayberry, he's the director of the emergency management, received our Friend of the County Award, and that was really well deserved. At the bottom of every email that he writes, he has a tagline, and he asks all of his employees to put it on there too, that says, "What have you done for your county today?" So I can't think of someone better who deserves the Friend of the County Award. But as soon as we heard that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, put on hold payments to the state of North Carolina and our local governments, I sent a message to Mr. Sprayberry right away, immediately, and I heard back from him that this is normal course of action, and we certainly feel for the people in Texas and in Florida. At the same time, our folks here are still recovering, and we don't want them to be forgotten. So what we're considering right now, and this was actually just yesterday morning back in conversation with Mr. Sprayberry, we're considering writing a letter to make sure to our congressional delegation to push for to expedite the lift off of those monies, the hold, to make sure monies start flowing at an appropriate timeline. Where we are at this very moment is I'm waiting on further information to potentially coordinate through the governor's office so we have a unified voice on moving that message forward. That doesn't mean that we're not going to send our own message, nor does it mean that I myself may try to have communications with both senators and the House delegation in Washington or the FEMA director. So we're still working on that. I wanted to carry that message to you today. If you have any advice, Maureen, I really would take it.
We appreciate it. Any other questions? Kevin, I certainly appreciate you coming in, and it's always a pleasure to work with you, and you always look after me when I go up there, so I'll stay on the steering committees about that.
Yes, thank you for being on the steering committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If you need anything, we're here for you. Just let us know. Call me anytime.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a great day. Okay, moving on. Appointment committee.
The appointment committee did not meet this morning, but we'd like to share with you that we're still in need of finalizing the House Appeals Board. We're in need of 4 more members, so if we can ask get those appointments back to us by next meeting, we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to unfinished business. I'll kind of turn it over to you, Mr. Wood.
Unfinished business?
Yeah, the ones that we added on.
Oh, the ones we added?
Walk-ons.
Okay, excuse me. Carol, I think you just typed those in, didn't you?
I was working on it, but I didn't get done, so.
All right. Well, the first is a motion to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder, which is T.A. Loving Company, in the amount of $1,915,000 for the sewer improvements at Grantham Middle School and the elementary school. And as I said at the 8 o'clock meeting, this is about $458,000 less than the money we allocated in our bond issue for this. So we are in a position, and I checked this with both Ted Cole and Tom Lee, our bond counsel, yesterday, and you can move monies that you save on one of these projects to one or more of the other projects. So this will help us with, as y'all know, we have 4 remaining contracts on the Maxwell Center, which we're in the process of doing now, that are outside the other contract, and that's the audiovisual, IT, security, and then the furnishings. So my recommendation to you is that at some point we would like to come back to you and move some of that money over to the Maxwell project. My recommendation is going to be that you leave in about a 3% contingency on this project, which is about $57,000. So you save $458,000, so that would leave roughly $400,000 that we could transfer over to the Maxwell project for these other 4 contracts. So that's the recommendation. As you know, T.A. Loving is a very reputable company. They're doing a great job for us now on the Maxwell Center, so everything checks out. They are the low bidder, and we recommend approval of this contract.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to accept low bid from T.A. Loving Company for the Grantham Middle and Elementary Schools sewer project.
Got a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Question. I want to make sure, this contract is actually extending it out to the Grantham community, isn't it?
Yeah, now I want to be clear, this is a force main,
It is.
but you can tie into a force main with certain provisions on that. I also want to be clear that we took the added step. They were having some issues at the elementary school, which, as y'all know, is probably, what, a half mile away. So this actually adds force main from there, and we'll pump that down to the main pump station at the middle school. So we'll be taking care of both issues at both those schools. And also, that does get the line closer into the main crossroads there in Grantham. And then it will go all the way to the force main that we have at the landfill that pumps from the landfill over to the Goldsboro wastewater treatment plant. So it ties it back into the whole system.
Well, it's a large project, but I just want to make sure that the public's aware that it does extend all the way out and actually includes both schools.
That's right.
And gets it out to the Grantham.
That's right. And the pathway of this is it will go down NC 13 to the road, and I never can remember the name of it, but it's the road. I'm sorry. Harrington that turns up. Herring, which goes in front of Thoroughfare Fire Department, goes down a little ways and then goes to Landfill Road. And that's where it'll tie back into ours. So that's the path. So anything along there, we have the possibility of doing some additional things with.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, when Mr. Doctor used, when the word open to the community, you did not mean household by household, did you?
No.
And I wanted to say that out loud because to the unlearned public, they might think that meant household by household.
Right.
Because the force main would pump the sewer inside the house.
Yeah, you've got to have them.
This is the question right here. Is there something that can be put in place in that intersection y'all talking about that would allow additional, allow per household by household, but is there something you can add to
What I typically meant by that was you could add a subdivision, because then they could pump into the pump station. But you are correct. You've got to have a situation where the engineers call it the head or the pressure. You've got to match that other pressure, basically, as both are pumping. Otherwise, it will back up. Now, you do have backflow preventers on the lines also, but that is something we can work with our engineers on.
A great benefit for the community, but there's something additional that has to be done for the benefit to be realized.
Yeah, it's not the same as tapping into a gravity sewer line.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All right, everybody stand forward. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the second.
The second item is a motion to authorize the county manager to execute an architectural agreement with Stewart Cooper Newell for the master plan and full design services for the public safety training facility to be located at Wayne Community College. And in your package, you have the email from Dr. Walker from yesterday saying that they endorse it in principle. You then have the actual document. There will be one change, and that's on page 10. You'll see we've scratched through 4.3.4. They're getting me that fresh copy today. That was a limitation of 24 months. They have agreed to take that out. That was the one thing as we negotiated, they had left that in, and that was a mistake. So we're getting that corrected. So this is in two parts. The first part is $37,000 to develop the master plan, and that's what they've actually started working on already, working with this committee. The second part is then, as you go to full design, it would be full design, schematic design, then full design, all the documents, bid documents, the contract, and then also would include construction, administration, and inspection. So it's complete services, and we're getting that for 8.25% of the adjusted construction cost. And I want to talk about that briefly. Some places you do that based on the engineer's estimated cost. I don't like to do that because he could be high or low. Typically, architects are high on their estimate so that the client isn't disappointed that it takes more money. So if you do that, then you're ending up paying more because you're paying 8.25% on an estimate. And what we do is say you'll start billing us on the estimated cost, but we true it up to actual construction cost. And basically what that means is the initial contract for construction and any and all change orders. So that's where we're at on it. This is the same rate that we got from them on doing the 911 center.
Sure.
Yes.
The process you just outlined, where the architects, you're going to go ahead and negotiate that contract and sign a contract for the architect. The architect is going to begin preliminary design. Before he goes to full design, will this board review that and approve it?
I should have explained that. Here's what will happen. He will do the master plan first. That's basically just taking the land we're talking about, deciding which components. And again, the facilities committee is going to be involved in that process, and so will this board. Ultimately, the components that we decide to put out there will be your decision. You will have recommendations, but it'll be your decision. Once he lays that out, then as Wayne talked about earlier, the second decision for this board, after you decide what makes it up, is how do you want to proceed? Do you want to proceed in a piecemeal fashion over several years, or do you want to do the whole thing all at one time? And part of that is Craig and the committee and I will have a recommendation for you on that. And then the facilities committee will make a recommendation to this board as to how you want to proceed. Now, at that point, none of the design will have taken place at that point. He's just talking conceptually about the types of components we saw in different places, and that sort of thing. So we have an idea of those things, and we can show y'all pictures, we can show you why they think they're necessary and all that. But none of the actual schematic design will take place until you say it, because we don't know how much we're going to do yet. So this is designed, this agreement is designed that we can go either way. You can pay him to design everything, even though you may still piecemeal it. Or you can say, we want you to design as, you know, the specific thing as we're getting ready to go forward with that. So, and just like we've done every other project, he will go to the schematic design phase on a component, and then you will have review of that and decide, yes, we agree to that. Then they'll go to full design so that we can bid it out. So did I answer your question, Joe? Okay.
Any other questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the contract with Stuart Cooper Newell on the first responder facility out at the college. And also, as a comment, I'd like to assure the board members that not only is this going to benefit the training for our first responders, not only in Wayne County but in the surrounding area, but it's also going to increase the enrollment at the college, we feel like. And so it's not just, there's several things that is working into this. And also, you know, we do have a committee that is looking at it and working on it, but they have not been assured a blank check. I mean, this will all be this board's decision on what we do. But we had to start somewhere, and we felt like that we chose the right committee, and but everything will be, the final decision will be this board right here on what we do, if we do anything. Can I put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure that I understand this particular training facility is going to take place of any current ones, or the absence of need for individual ones around?
Well, we're not saying that they would have to remove what they have. So some of them may still want to use some of what they have, but we think the facility would be such that pretty much everyone will want to use it, because it will be an improvement over anything we've got. And we did go and tour the other day, Mel Powers and I did tour Goldsboro's facility, and we don't think that it has everything that we're looking for. It's a very confined space, but I'm sure they would continue to use that to some degree also. And then we have one or two that have, I think, some towers and things like that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wood's correct in that. We don't want to think any of the agencies in the county, we don't want to think that we're trying to hold them back from using what they've got, and don't even have a problem with maybe some of them building a small facility, you know, that would suit their particular needs. But we just feel like that a facility at the college will put us in a better position to keep our first responders trained and know what to do and not to do.
And what we found in visiting these other five, they're virtually all national. Our recommendation and all that, really the way I view this is we're just augmenting their ability to do the classroom instruction with a centralized facility.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. And for the last one, Mr.
Okay, the last one is a motion to authorize the chairman to accept the CDBG DR award in the amount of $16,940,000 from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. And as I mentioned earlier, this is roughly 2 years of a 3-year commitment. And when we went to those meetings, I've told you, both Scott Stevens and I and the county manager and the city manager of the largest city in the other 3 counties as well. So the 8 of us make up an advisory board on the 4 hardest hit counties. And when we discussed how to go about this, what the state came up with, and we're in agreement with it, is that we would do 2 of the 3 years, so roughly 2/3 of the money, and then come back towards the end of the 2nd year and see if we need to make any adjustments, and then they will award you the 3rd year.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I move approval.
Got a motion on the floor to approve. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. Okay, the consent agenda, we talked about that at length in the 8 o'clock session. Are there any additional questions about that? If not, there's a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, moving on to new business. We've already done Kevin, and I believe we got Ms. Tiffany here to talk to us about the motion to approve the Industry Appreciation Month proclamation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners. As you may remember, I normally come before you every year about this time in my role as existing industry manager for the Wayne County Development Alliance. We have deemed October as Industry Appreciation Month, and I'd like to read a proclamation that we would like for you all to consider adopting. Whereas the Wayne County Board of Commissioners supports the endeavors of industry in Wayne County, and whereas the Wayne County Development Alliance Incorporated hosts the industry celebration each year to thank the more than 70 manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, machine shops, and other businesses in the county. And whereas events planned to celebrate these industries include a forklift rodeo at the Advanced Manufacturing Center, a golf tournament at Walnut Creek Country Club, an award ceremony to name this year's Industry of the Year, and tours of local industries. Whereas representatives from local businesses and industries and guests, who will include officials from the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, utility allies, local and state elected officials, and community leaders will attend these events. And whereas this is an annual tradition, giving the community a chance to pause and thank industries for all they do for Wayne County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the month of October 2017 as Industry Appreciation Month in Wayne County. So, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners, I ask that you approve and adopt this proclamation this 3rd day of October 2017.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Before you leave, don't you need some volunteers?
We do. If anybody'd like to come out
Tell us a bit more
this
about that.
Thursday for our forklift rodeo, we'd be glad to have you.
Are you going to be at the same place as Advanced Manufacturing Center?
Yes, sir. In a big parking lot out there.
It's not supposed to rain this year, is it?
No, thank goodness. We were racing against the rain last year. Hurricane Matthew.
For those of you who didn't
on
get a
its
chance
way.
to see any of that last year, if you take a few minutes to go out there to see that, it's pretty
It's a
interesting.
lot of fun. We have 18 drivers signed up this year, so thank you.
Thank you.
I think they turned down my application for driving.
You don't have to drive. You can just come and watch.
You have to have a certified forklift operator license to participate.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
All right, moving on to, I think there's a video that Carol's going to show us.
You fixed the sound.
Good job.
Very good.
And having seen you at the very last, might as well hear the county manager's comments.
Okay. We have just a few things I want to report to you. The health department, the architectural contract there, we're very close to having that. We should have that to you at the next meeting. On our EMS buildings and collections, we did get bids back on that. The good news is we think we're going to save a substantial amount of money on that. We're down to evaluating 2 of the top 4. We interviewed all 4 of those. The committee came down to those 2. We're busy checking some references and also with some of the counties they're working with in North Carolina. So we should have a recommendation back to you at the next meeting on that. But when I say substantial savings, we think somewhere in the neighborhood of close to $150,000 a year. So the bidding this out, I think, was a good move. On the farmers market bids, I've already reported to you that the bids came in higher than we anticipated. You know, we have a $500,000 grant from the North Carolina Tobacco Trust Fund Commission. The bids came in well in excess of that. We're in the process of working with the architect now about some of the changes we can make to that building to get it closer to that number. And we'll be reporting back to you on that shortly. And depending on what we find out there, we'll either be awarding it to the low bidder, but with those changes, or the recommendation may be just to rebid it, to reject all the bids and rebid it, depending on how substantial those changes are. But
Based on what we're building, I just can't believe it.
well, we think it's very high.
I agree.
And so we have Kendall looking at everything now. He's coming up with recommendations on what he thinks we can cut. The architect is working with the low bidder, the apparent low bidder, on what they think we can cut. And then we'll get together probably later this week. Kendall was out on vacation yesterday, so I want to give him time to review the plans and specs in detail and then get back on that.
This was a metal building.
That's what I was.
It's a metal building with brick veneer. And one of the things we're discussing is taking off the brick veneer. But there are a number of elements. I don't want to get into all of it this morning because I may miss some. Plus, Kendall hadn't had a chance to give me his list of things as he goes through the plans and specs. But we are working diligently to try to get this back down into a manageable number. The other good news, and we already took care of that today, this is a roller coaster. You know, one day you get a bid that's $258,000 high. The next day you get a bid that's $258,000 lower than what you budgeted. So I was glad to see the second day. I was not real happy with the first day. But on October the 17th, one of the things that the chairman, vice chairman, and Craig and I have been talking about is it's probably time to give y'all a good update on all of our projects, because in about 3 or 4 months you'll be sitting down to do goal setting for the next year. So we thought what we'd like to do at the next meeting is it'll take at least an hour, is just at the end have a work session and just give you an update on all the projects we have going on, exactly where we're at on them. And I think we're in excess of about 30-something. So we want to give you a thorough update on that so that you know exactly where we are going forward and what's already in the works. And then you can be thinking about what, if anything, you'd like to talk about when you have your planning retreat in January. But this would not be the time to discuss goals for next year. This is just to give you a clear update of what we've got right now and where we're at on everything. So is everybody in agreement to do that at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And other than that, we're just continuing to work on things. We will have the architect RFQs back for the EMS and the Shell building on October 10. So at your October 17th meeting, we may have a recommendation back for you. It's somewhat doubtful because we need to do some interviews, but we're going to shoot to try to do that if we can. As far as the Lot 8 out at Park East, everything's going well there. And we're getting, the compaction tests have been done, and everything looks to be fine there. So I think we're in good shape there. And this dry weather has helped here recently. So with that, I think those are the main things that we've been working on.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bailey, comments?
Oh, okay, thank you. I had attended the East Carolina Workforce Development Board meeting down in New Bern. Also been in several meetings with the Apprenticeship Council with the Commerce Department. I wanted to share with the board and the public on our DSS board meeting on September the 25th, our interim director, Earl Merritt, we gave him a great going away party, if you will, plus a plaque because of his 4-month service here in Wayne County with DSS. Shortly after that meeting, I was actually left the CFB building and went to Sam's to get some fuel, and I got a text message that Earl Merritt was on the way to the emergency room, and it appears he's had a stroke. So I took off to the emergency room along with some of the other staff at DSS, and what happened, and make a long story short, they airlifted him to Vidant, and they gave him the stroke buster, and he's getting along fine. But last Friday, I wanted to share some of these highlights with you. Jeffrey Merritt, his son, has been keeping us abreast on how Earl's doing. And first of all, he says, on behalf of me and my family, I thank all of you because there's no doubt that the Lord Jesus Christ had you where you needed to be to take care of my dad. He was sitting in his office at work in the county office building, and this is where he had a stroke. He also said, I want to give you an update, and this was last Friday, that he said, Dad is in a nursing facility for rehab in Smithfield. He had a good night and said the bed was comfortable. He was able to complete physical, occupational, and speech therapist today. He had some visits. He says the only complaint he has is that the room's cold. But he still remains lethargic and is sleeping more than usual, but this is to be expected. He did have and as of yesterday, the doctors think he may have had 2 strokes. So his prognosis is, because of the stroke buster, his prognosis is a full recovery at this point. But it's going to take a long time. So he does want to encourage us to go visit with Earl, but he's suggesting doing it late in the afternoon, like from 4 to 9, because he's in therapy most of the time during the day. But this is the part I do want to share with all of us. He says, I do want to share that he told me that working with the group that is present at Wayne County DSS was a highlight of his career. He has thoroughly enjoyed the work that was being done there and helping to play a part in it. He spoke with such excitement when he discussed with me some of the things that were trying to be initiated in the agency. He saw and still sees the potential that is in that agency with the staff that is there. So what I would like to say at this point, let's keep Earl and his family in our prayers. Tammy Schrenker, our new DSS director, is actually in town today. She's just stopping in. She is coming on board full-time the 9th of this month. So, but I just want to give you an update on Earl and to let you know that he came to us in a critical time in our agency. And boy, what a job Earl Merritt did for our DSS. Let's keep him and his family in our prayers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Camardi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have one committee meeting to report. I attended last Thursday. I attended the Gold Wayne Transportation Authority meeting. And one significant piece of information that I want to share with the public is that our very capable and knowledgeable director will be retiring sometime within the next year. And we have put in place the opportunity for an assistant to the executive director. And that information will be going out to the public soon through the appropriate human resource departments. Just as piece of information to this board, all things start with small groups, and there was a little bit of conversation on this board about groups this morning. And as it stood to be corrected last Thursday, there was a small group that had been put in place, but no elected official from the city or the county had been put on that board. Just coincidentally, our city councilman, Antonio Williams, just happened to be visiting us this morning. Hello, Antonio. And I made a motion that he and my colleague, Mr. Mayo, would be representing the elected officials on that group as part of the selection committee. So we would be in on these kind of things from day one, transparency and so forth. And the reason I make a special note of this, for those who may be watching this on television or reading our great newspapers, we want to give opportunity for all folks who are interested in this position to be aware of it and have a chance to apply for it. And this position is so little. The lead up, I hope, proves to be a little bit different than some that I've seen, in that it is going to start as a training position. So it gives some bright person out there the opportunity to apply for this, who, if he was applying for the executive director position, would have to come in with such a high volume of knowledge that it would not give an opportunity for a cross section. Yes, this person will have to have knowledge, but it gives an opportunity to be transfer skills and adaptable to this. So I want to encourage all folk who are interested in this to apply and compete for it. It's going to be a good position in the county, and it's a very worthwhile position because there's some great things being done by this transportation authority right now, providing transportation to places and for folk who really need transportation. And I like to toss this little piece in. I grew up in Fayetteville where there was a very comprehensive transportation system, and it gave me as a adolescent, teenager, the opportunity to travel all around Fayetteville by being able to drop that token in that box and be able to ride. So I'm very grateful and thankful that we have this in Wayne County. That's it, Mr.
Thank you for looking into that, because you contacted me the other day about that. Mr. Daugherty.
It was nice to see Mr. Leonard come and give us an update on some of the things going on in the state and in our county. But one of the things that I do encourage us to do very quickly, and that is to check into this $75 million school grant dollars, school construction grant dollar. We are aware that we've got a lot of classrooms that we've got to build. And if we can get some grant dollars for that, we definitely need to. And I think from what I could realize that time is of the essence. So maybe we can reach out to the school administration, see whether or not maybe we can get in for some of those dollars. And the other thing I would ask, and that is we're going through checking off those things that we've accomplished and working on and so forth. Would you check on our welcome signs for Wayne County? I swear those signs, it's been a year and a half. I would hope that they have built those signs or have them in the
They've been paid for.
Been paid for, we just haven't received them.
Yeah, I think they're ahead of schedule.
They're ahead of schedule. Thank you,
We got
Mr.
the
Chairman.
same issue on signs for the Maxwell Center, we're in the process of finishing that up with them.
Oh, really?
I was contacted by a Green County Commissioner who was interested in signs, and I said, oh, get in line and good luck.
Well, one thing about signs, I see that it looks like the transportation, the NC Transportation might be putting some signs of some kind of new signs down on the new 4-lane 95, 117 going south. I know that, and this is all public consumption, pardon me for cutting back in, Chairman, but I know that one of my colleagues out of Mount Olive was interested in and has talked to us over time about the University of Mount Olive having an opportunity to be on some signs. I was encouraged when I saw them working on the sign and hoping that that would be part of it.
Well, now,
These are on the welcome sign.
They're included on the new welcome sign.
They included on the new welcome sign?
Yeah, they've paid, I think they've paid their portion too, so we're all paid up.
So we all paid up, it's just,
They just wait.
they wait for them to deliver, okay.
Might be a pyramid scheme, who knows?
But we agreed to have, I think they do it as a plate on the, underneath it.
Yeah. Let's move on from that. Mr. Bale.
Mr. Chairman, I met with the Juvenile Justice Committee since our last meeting, and they are still doing a fantastic job for the youth of Wayne County. Matter of fact, they're considered to have the best Juvenile Justice Committee in the whole state of North Carolina, which I think is very well, speaks well for Wayne County. Attend the Wages Board, they are still doing a great job, getting a lot of grants in to do things for the citizens and feeding a lot of people on this food program that they have over there, which I think is very great also. Met with the Eastern Region, and they are still waiting to hear from the Department of Human Service on what they're going to do with the consolidation. So they still know where as of this date. And attend the Military Affairs Committee meeting. That was great. Seymour Johnson has some good work that they're doing out there, and that everybody knows we're getting the KC 46, which is going to seal the deal for Seymour Johnson. I think it's going to keep him here for years. So that's my report.
Mr. Aycock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just attended several meetings, but I won't go into detail on all of them, but did go to the Highway 70 Corridor Commission out at LaGrange, and there's not a whole lot going on in Wayne County on the Highway 70 Commission, because basically our road is completed through Wayne County, but it's interesting to see what is going on and what's not going on in our adjacent counties. There is some progress being made, but it's going to be a slow process to get 70 highway up to interstate status for many, many years, but at least they're moving in the right direction. It's just very slow. Also attended the topping off ceremonies out at the hospital, and what that was they were setting one of the final beams on the building, and just wanted to show, TA11 wanted to show their appreciation for their employees and workers. And I thought one of the most appropriate things they did is TA11 did provide a meal for all of the dignitaries and the employees, and they asked the employees to go first. And I thought that speaks highly of TA11 is taking care of the people that's actually doing the work. Also attended the jail breakfast, the quarterly jail breakfast. Had one of the largest turnouts that I've seen at one of those, and got some very good information out of that. And lastly, but certainly not least, our country has been through some devastating times with the hurricane in Texas and in Florida and in Puerto Rico, and the tragedy this Sunday night in Las Vegas. This country is just in a trying time. But on the Las Vegas event, watching it on TV, we hear the praise of the first responders, how they stepped up and put themselves in dangerous way to protect people. And I just want the citizens of Wayne County to know we've got those same people right here in Wayne County. Our first responders would do the very same thing that the ones that stepped up in Las Vegas did. Pray to God that nothing like that ever happens here. But we've got to train people, and regardless of the uniform they wear, whether it's law enforcement, EMS, fire, or any other uniform that the first responders wear, I just want to commend them for going into those careers for their livelihood. But they do it for more than just the paycheck. And I just want to, at this time, thank all of our first responders in Wayne County for what they sacrifice to keep our safety here at home. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gurley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On September 24th, along with Commissioners Payton Aycock, I had the privilege to attend the Old Waynesboro Commission's grand opening of the Hamilton Collection. That's a collection of authentic Civil War artifact. Very nice collection, very well preserved, and Wayne County is very fortunate to have that housed here in our county. And if anybody hasn't yet, I encourage you to go out and see that collection. It's an awesome collection. Also, Jim Scott, who is the president of the Old Waynesboro Commission, and Neil Bartlett, the director, asked that I share with y'all and express their sincere appreciation and gratitude to the board's past support and the continued support, and they're very complimentary of this board. Next, Mr. Chairman, I attended US 70 Corridor Commission, and Mr. Aycock's right on the Highway 70 projects, but there's a couple things I do want to note. Our own Tim Little here, District 4, engineer, has been promoted to chief engineer. And along with that, John Rouse, District 2 engineer, has been promoted to Eastern Deputy engineer. So that's two good people that'll be very good for Eastern North Carolina, Wayne County, and make us even more robust in the future. So that's good news. Next, I'd like to just read some printed information that Jennifer Collins was good enough, gracious enough to type for me. And this is about the Neuse River flooding prevention and mitigation measures. In an effort to avoid flooding impacts within the lower Neuse River basin, the Highway 70 Corridor Commission, along with towns and counties representing and or residing along Neuse River Basin, requested support from the NCDOT to update studies to minimize area flooding along Neuse River. And then on that meeting on September 21st, the Highway 70 Corridor Commission agreed to support this by contributing $25,000 to the study efforts. And here where John Rouse will be heading up that study efforts overseeing the flooding. And secondly on that, very fortunate here, the governor is supposed to provide us a press release this week on this measure. And Mr. Durwood Stevenson, the Executive Director of Highway 70 Corridor Commission, has been tasked to chair that steering committee. So we're very fortunate here to have somebody from Johnson County local that's seen the Neuse River floods throughout the year to chair and steer this committee. So I think we're in very good posture right now to help with the mitigation of the flood future. Thank you.
Mr. Pope, you had another comment?
Yes, I'd just like to, Mr. Aycock reminded me of something that I heard over the news this morning. You know, we as citizens of this country are going to have to step up to the plate also. You know, we say we're good first responders, and I agree with you. Matter of fact, some of my best friends work for our first responders. But there's a bill that was pulled yesterday after this shooting in the Congress that is going to make it legal for people to buy silencers to put on these type of weapons that this guy used. Now, can you imagine if that guy had a silencer on his weapon, how many people he would have killed, would have murdered out of that group of country and western people that were just having a good time of visiting and not paying any attention? There would have been thousands of people killed. And I don't understand how the Congress can even consider putting silencers or letting citizens buy silencers to put on these type of weapons. So I just wanted get that out. Thank you, Mr. Aycock, for reminding me of that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
since we're on with reference to Mr. Aycock's comments, first I want to thank him for using some of his time to thank the first responders. And I know we tend to think of those as rescue guys, but not to embarrass anyone in there, but my good friend, Mr. Captain Brogdon, Major General Brogdon. He's been in this ring. He's been in this arena for a long time, and I feel a little safer living in Mount Olive because I know he's there in Mount Olive somewhere most of the time, after 6 o'clock anyway. And it's just never an opportunity, Mr. Aycock, to miss an opportunity to thank folk who go out there and do this kind of thing. But the one I want to add is, as I watch TV, all kinds of people ran to the rescue of their fellow American citizens. They won't no picking and choosing. It sounds like to me they were all rushing to aid those who were in desperate straits, and that just makes you, as bad a tragedy as this was, it makes you feel better to know that people will respond to each other. Thank you for letting me indulge.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Could I say just,
Sure.
talking about Mr. Aycock, Mr. Bell was talking about the silencers. And they are illegal, but here's the key. I'm in the manufacturing sector. I can go on the internet and I can pull up an AK-47 or AR-15, and it tells me what to do to that weapon to make it automatic. Any machinist, including myself, anywhere in this country, if you got a lathe and a milling machine and a drill press, you can modify your own weapons, and believe it, it's being done in our country. Yes, it is illegal, and it should be, but it doesn't keep people from producing their own. As simple as taking a 2-liter plastic bottle, putting it over the end of a weapon and taping it with duct tape, that is a one-shot silencer. I mean, these things are on the internet. You can go find drawings of changing the mechanisms in these weapons. So, because of technology and because of people's skills, we're never going to stop it, but we certainly, even though it's illegal, how in the world are you going to control all these things? It's hard to do. So, it's just the fact that in the manufacturing sector, I know some people that are machinists and in the past have made their own silencers. It's illegal, but it's done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I attended Bo Waynesboro as well, and I was very impressed with the collection out there. I think it's worth better than $500,000, as I recall. And they're very committed. And the gentleman Hamilton collection, I believe it was called. And I really enjoyed that. And I was at the topping out ceremony. Enjoyed that, even though it was hot as it could be. Had to miss out a few things. My wife had eye surgery last Thursday, and she's doing very well, by the way. So thanks everybody for their comments on that. The Wayne County veterans are having a stand down at the Herman Park Center on Thursday, October 5th, and it doesn't say what time. I'm sure it's probably all day long. Well, they're trying to target veterans out there who are suffering and need help. If they've got a full-time job and full benefits and that kind of thing, that's not what we're trying to do. We're really kind of target a lot of the homeless veterans, and we have a lot more here than you would think. So that's Thursday at the Herman Park Auditorium. And talking about the horrific news from yesterday, we all feel terrible about it. There's no question about that. But what can we do about it? Carol passed a note to me just a minute ago, and she's been following it very closely. And apparently, the Board of Commissioners there in Clark County are setting up a GoFundMe account for the victims. So if nothing else, that may be a way that we can help as individuals, because they got a lot of people who are going to be in hospitals for a long, long time. And if you can find out what that is, that address, and when it ever gets set up, I think everybody needs to take a look at it and do your part to help your fellow Americans. And I truly mean that. But having said that, that's all I have, and I think we do need to go back in closed session for the reasons you stated earlier, or do you need to state it again? So is there a motion to go back in closed session?
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor? Raise your hand.